One of the best anime releases of the 2024 winter anime season, Delicious in Dungeon, or Dungeon Meshi, does not disappoint in delivering a uniquely funny and interesting premise for a fantasy story, allowing us to see some familiar monsters in a new light. In this video, we will be discussing the first battle-focused arc of the story, where the party finally reaches their goal of coming face-to-face with the dreaded Red Dragon to save their beloved companion, Farin. Will it be a success? Let's find out. Laios, Mercil, Senshi, and Chilchuck have finally reached the 5th level of the dungeon. After departing from the Golden Castle, they were greeted by the expansive castle town unfolding before them. The streets of the town, distorted and reshaped by magic, still bear the marks of its former grandeur, a silent tribute to its once magnificent days. Fleeting shadows catch the corner of your eye, and whispers seem to caress your ears, hinting at the presence of something perpetually lurking just beyond perception. Laios discovered the dwelling place of the orcs, seemingly abandoned in a haste. Their storage was left wide open, emanating a foul odor. It appears that monsters had been rummaging through it, although the alcohol and flour remained untouched. Senshi suggested baking bread, to which Chilchuck expressed concern over the orcs' potential wrath upon their return. Senshi countered, asserting that since they had taken the orcs' vegetables, now they'll be even. Laios was startled by a sight in another room. Dead wargs littered the floor. Mercil deduced that they hadn't succumbed to ordinary fire, a theory Laios concurred with, suspecting the Red Dragon's fire breath as the cause. This indicated the dragon had recently traversed the area. Mercil then recalled a previous discussion about dragons' typically dormant behavior, contrasting it with the orcs' account and the carnage they stumbled upon, suggesting the dragon had been awake all along and might still be lurking nearby. She pondered their chances against an active dragon, expressing doubt about their group's capability to prevail. Reflecting on the potential loss and Farin's fate, Mercil was overcome with despair, shedding tears. Laios urges her to remain calm, as nothing is certain yet. He proposes that they first formulate a plan. However, Chilchuck raises a concern that facing a dragon with merely 3 individuals presents a formidable challenge. The group is puzzled by his reference to only 3 people. Chilchuck clarifies, reminding them of his previous admissions regarding his limited combat capabilities. His role was to assist in reaching this point, not to engage in dragon slaying. Laios acknowledges this understanding, while Mercil, through her tears, insists she meant no accusation. Senshi inquires about their previous successes against dragons. Laios explains that their tactics varied by the situation and the dragon species. In the past, Farin would cast protective spells against fire and injury. Laios, Namari, and Sorcerer would distract the dragon, while Mercil employed explosive spells to weaken it. Sorcerer would seize an opportunity to deliver the fatal blow, as Laios recounts their typical strategy. Furthermore, their past victories were feasible due to their collective strength, indicating the need for a new approach with their current trio. Magic and conventional weapons are largely ineffective against dragons due to their steel-like scales. However, a vulnerability exists on the underside of their neck, a spot where scales overlap near vital organs, presenting a chance for a lethal strike if targeted precisely. Senshi, curious about the size of the Red Dragon, receives an illustration of its height through the reference to a damaged walkway, which Laios suggests was caused by the dragon's collision. Chilchuck believes this damage indicates the dragon's immense size, making the task of reaching and striking its weak point with a sword a daunting endeavor. Agreeing on the difficulty, they decide to investigate further by examining the site themselves. Upon reaching their destination, Laios acknowledges the considerable height at which they find themselves. He contemplates leaping onto the dragon's neck from their position, a notion Mercil deems insane. Chilchuck urgently advises against such recklessness. Mercil's concern grows as she admits her protective spells are inferior to Farin's. A fall from such a height, coupled with the inability to evade the dragon's fiery breath, would likely result in serious injury. Chilchuck questions their strategy for countering the dragon's breath, highlighting the lack of escape routes at their elevation. Mercil points out, referencing Namari, that Senshi's axe would fail to penetrate the dragon's hide, questioning whether Laios' sword could achieve better results. She explains that distracting the dragon to allow her sufficient time to conjure a potent explosion spell for stunning it presents a significant challenge, on top of which they must deliver a fatal strike. Mercil inquires if Laios and Sinchi could manage this feat, remaining optimistic about devising a plan despite Chilchuk's request for specifics, which he cannot provide. Surveying the dilapidated walkway, Laios proposes targeting the surrounding buildings with Mercil's explosive magic instead of the dragon directly. He points out the extensive network of walkways and residences bridging the gaps between structures, suggesting that collapsing one onto the dragon as it passes beneath could trap it, making its vulnerable spot accessible for an attack. Mercil and Chilchuk contemplate this strategy. Laios admits that he and Sinchi alone cannot sustain combat long enough for Mercil to prepare her spell. However, by luring the dragon into a chase, they could effectively distract it. He further notes the castle town's narrow confines could exhaust the dragon, already wearied from prolonged activity. Chilchuk, finding merit in Laios' plan, offers his assistance, surprising Mercil, who, in her gratitude, nearly embraces him before he gently rebuffs the gesture. Laios ponders the unusual behavior of the red dragon, questioning why it isn't resting and what draws it to the 5th level, an area its kind typically shuns due to its narrow confines. He speculates about the possibility of mating season influencing its actions. Chilchuk recalls a detail about Sinchi's pod, crafted from an extraordinary metal, remembered from Namori's remarks on its ability to withstand a dragon's attack and potentially breach its defenses. Mercil confirms, recalling Namori's praise of the metal as a blacksmith's ideal. She suggests that its resilience could indeed counteract a dragon's breath, a theory that sparks hope. Sinchi notes this revelation could be the key to managing the dragon's fiery assault, prompting Chilchuk to wonder about the composition of Sinchi's knives. Mercil expresses regret at not having Namari evaluate them. Feeling increasingly confident, Laios believes in their potential for success, emphasizing the power of determination. He proposes devising a distraction route for the dragon, but Sinchi heading in the opposite direction. Together with Mercil and Chilchuk, Laios begins mapping out strategic pathways and walkways, ultimately satisfied with their plan. Their return catches Sinchi by surprise, prompting Chilchuk's query about his absence, to which Sinchi responds he was preparing bread. Mercil questions his awareness of their impending challenge against the dragon, and Sinchi affirms, highlighting the importance of a nourishing meal before battle. Laios acknowledges their previous defeat to hunger, determined not to repeat the mistake. The discovery of wine, courtesy of Sinchi's foraging, delights them, though Mercil insists celebrations wait until post-dragon. Despite the absence of eggs, Sinchi is confident in his culinary skills. He prepares a dish by breading and frying giant frog meat, followed by crafting a sauce from simmered red wine and seasonings. He proudly names the dish, "Let's Cutlet the Dragon to Pieces," symbolizing their readiness and camaraderie before the confrontation. Laios expresses his excitement over the appetizing meal prepared. Chilchuk acknowledges his own hunger, which he hadn't noticed until the aroma of the food reached him. As they commence eating, Laios compliments the satisfying crunch of the dish. Mercil, moved to tears, prompts Laios to inquire about her distress. She shares a moment of emotion, relieved at the prospect of no longer having to consume monsters, though the reminder they still have the red dragon lingers. During the meal, Laios takes the opportunity to express his gratitude towards his companions. He admits doubting his ability to have progressed this far alone, specifically thanking Sinchi for his invaluable support and culinary skills that nourished both their bodies and spirits. Laios acknowledges Chilchuk's crucial role in saving them days of travel by avoiding the longer route, highlighting his reliability throughout their journey. Turning to Mercil, Laios recognizes the challenges she faced, apologizing for the hardships and expressing joy at her decision to join them. Both Mercil and Sinchi cheered after his speech. But the conversation takes an awkward turn, noted by Chilchuk, prompting an apology from Laios. Laios then notices the ground trembling, indicated by the rattling of an empty plate. Sinchi's inquiry about the disturbance leads Laios to reveal the slight shaking of the ground. The entire group soon feels the tremors, heralding the arrival of the red dragon. Mercil's curiosity about the cause is answered by Laios' realization that the dragon has returned, though he doubts it's aware of their presence. He urges a swift departure to avoid detection. The dragon's apparent search for something captures their attention, with Chilchuk marveling at its immense size. Mercil voices concerns about their ability to triumph, but Laios reassures her, highlighting their collective progress. He directs Mersil to the strategic location while preparing to distract the dragon. After ensuring everyone is prepared and in good condition, they embark on their mission. Each member took their designated position in preparation for the encounter with the red dragon. Mersil found herself solitary at her location, diligently readying her spell. Upon completing her preparations, she believed her efforts were sufficient to collapse the building at her command. Nevertheless, she observed that some mana remained unused, leading her to question the effectiveness of their strategy. Directly attacking the dragon with her magic was not a guaranteed success, and indiscriminately expending all her mana in an attempt to incapacitate it could potentially exhaust her resources, placing everyone at risk. The strategy of entrapping the dragon beneath the ruins of a building emerged as a safer and more logical approach. Given the surplus mana, which was ample for the required spell, she could offer assistance to Laios, and the rest should unforeseen circumstances arise. Mersil realized it was crucial to pause, breathe deeply, and focus solely on her imminent task, committing herself to ensuring their plan would not fail. Reflecting on Farin, she reassured her to await their return. Meanwhile, the red dragon scrutinized its surroundings, eventually detecting the scent and sounds of Senshi and Laios. Positioned strategically, they utilized their cooking utensils to generate noise, successfully capturing the dragon's focus. Upon being noticed, Laios, Senshi, and Chilchuk initiated their escape, with the dragon relentlessly pursuing them. Its astonishing velocity became evident, prompting Laios to reveal that a red dragon's maximum speed reached 60 kilometers per hour. Chilchuk expressed his astonishment, criticizing Laios for not sharing such critical information sooner, considering humans can only achieve speeds between 15 to 30 kilometers per hour. Laios reassured him, stating their intent to leverage the terrain to their advantage to impede the dragon, advising Chilchuk not to fret. They executed a sharp turn at the upcoming corner, aiming to provoke the dragon into unleashing its fire breath. Dragons possess an internal fuel reservoir, which, upon the clicking of their tongues, ignites the fuel, enabling them to expel flames. The strategy devised by the group aimed to drain this reservoir, rendering the dragon incapable of emitting fire when they ensnared it beneath the structure. As anticipated, the dragon executed a tongue click. Laios, upon hearing this, braced for the imminent blaze, promptly directing everyone to seek shelter behind Senshi's pants. Despite the ferocity of the flames unleashed, their makeshift shield proved remarkably resilient. Laios marveled at the sheer volume of fire the dragon could produce. Thanks to Senshi's culinary equipment and Mersil's protective enchantment, they emerged from the assault unscathed. Nonetheless, Laios' momentary lapse led him to grasp the overheated pan, belatedly realizing its scorching temperature, which caused him to drop it. The sound of the pan hitting the ground ceased, and the dragon shifted its focus back to them. Chilchuk noted the inevitable heating of the pots, considering their daily use by Senshi. Laios had erroneously believed that the pans would simply deflect the dragon's fire, based on Namori's assertion that adamantine could shield them from the draconic flames. Chilchuk was astounded by the incompleteness of the advice provided. Once more, the dragon prepared to unleash fire with another click of its tongue. Faced with no alternative, they deviated from their planned path to evade the dragon's pursuit. Mersil, observing from afar, expressed surprise as they neared her position more quickly than anticipated, surpassing the speed accounted for in their plan. She pondered whether the dragon's fuel supply had been depleted. The trio pressed on, with the formidable dragon trailing closely behind. Mersil found herself perplexed by the situation's development. The initial strategy involved dividing into two groups. She contemplated whether sticking to the original plan was still advisable. Each member of the trio communicated through gestures, leaving Mersil puzzled about their meaning. Consequently, she executed her part of the plan, detonating the building through which they expected the dragon to pass. The timing was impeccable, collapsing the structure upon the dragon's arrival. Thankfully, the trio had advanced slightly ahead, managing to escape unscathed. They subsequently sought out the red dragon, speculating on whether it had been merely ensnared beneath the debris. To their astonishment, the dragon arose as if the collapse had no effect on it, rendering the group's strategy ineffective. The trio was struck by flying debris. Chilchuk attempted to rise, but Laios urged silence upon him as the dragon had commenced its search in their vicinity. Laios found himself in a prone position, with the dragon looming directly overhead, placing him alarmingly close to its vulnerability. A mere step would position him within the ideal range for a strike. However, his sword unexpectedly began to vibrate, then astonishingly leaped into the air, spinning before landing on the ground, diverting the dragon's focus. Laios was taken aback by his sword's autonomous action, cursing at it and referring to it as Kinsuku. This weapon proved to be a formidable entity in its own right. Chilchuk watched in disbelief at what transpired. Senshi then urgently beckoned them to stand, informing them that the red dragon was positioned above, gazing intently at them and initiating its tongue-clicking prelude to a flame burst. They swiftly maneuvered beneath its underbelly. Chilchuk expressed intense frustration towards Laios, who offered profuse apologies. Laios acknowledged that no words could adequately express the recklessness of his action, continuing to speak in a manner that Laios found difficult to decipher. The dragon lost its patience, leaving the trio uncertain about their next steps. Laios proposed an escape route towards the tail area. However, they immediately observed the tail swipe across a building. This observation necessitated a strategic pivot due to the heightened risk, seemingly condemning them to remain in their precarious position. Faced with escalating difficulty, Mercil stepped in to assist. She unleashed an explosion spell aimed at their adversary, but the spell fell short due to its limited range. She realized the need for deeper concentration, yet the red dragon was closing in on her. Meanwhile, Senshi attempted to sever the dragon's claw with his axe, only to have his axe shatter upon impact. Enraged, the dragon shifted its foot in response. Devoid of their weapons, their dilemma deepened. Senshi then pulled out his prized knife, entrusting it to Laios. Chilchuk, taken aback, inquired if the knife was crafted from an extraordinary metal. Senshi affirmed, declaring its capability to cleave through any beast's flesh and bones. He proudly mentioned that he had diligently cared for and preserved this knife, which was a mithril cooking knife, potentially the world's sole specimen. The duo was amazed to learn the knife was forged from mithril, lamenting that they hadn't shown it to Namari. They joked that Namari might have reacted violently upon discovering Senshi utilized a mithril blade for culinary purposes. Senshi conceded that concealing the knife's true nature was perhaps for the best. When the dragon adjusted its stance, Laios promptly employed Senshi's knife, managing to penetrate the dragon's scale, an unexpectedly effective maneuver. Yet, Laios soon acknowledged the knife's diminutive scale relative to the dragon. Given the weapon's limited size, its impact on the formidable opponent was minimal, likely insufficient to deliver a decisive blow. As the dragon's fury intensified, Mercil, observing from a distance, was left wondering about her comrades' well-being and contemplating her subsequent actions to contribute to their effort. Mercil was uncertain whether their plan had failed or if her companions were attempting a different strategy, as she was too far away from them. Despite her confusion, she insisted that now was not the time to merely stand by and worry. She hoped they were all right and that her protection spells would prove effective. Back in the fray, the three had nowhere else to go. The dragon bent down to peer at them, driving them even further from the only weapon they had. If things continued in this manner, they would end up in a vast open plaza where the dragon could easily kill them with fire. Thus, Senshi volunteered to distract the dragon. However, Laios objected, citing the high risk. Senshi countered by asking if, among all the monsters they had faced, there was ever one that didn't fight to survive. In this dungeon, he explained, you either eat or get eaten. If they did not fight with all their might, they would simply become the dragon's meal. With that, he bolstered himself and charged. As he neared the sword, the red dragon noticed him. He was about to grasp it when the dragon crushed him underfoot, causing him to cough up blood. Laios attempted to help, but Chilchuk tripped him, causing Laios to fall to the ground where he too was stepped on. Chilchuk explained that running there was pointless now. He would create an opening for Laios to escape. He urged Laios to find his sister and devise a new plan. Rushing to Senshi's side to check on him, Laios inquired if Senshi could still move. Noticing this, the dragon turned its attention towards them, prompting Laios to pull Senshi's knife from his foot. He managed to dodge the dragon's charge and used the opportunity to hurl the knife into its eye, hitting the target precisely, which enraged the beast. Finally, he spotted Laios' sword. While the dragon was still in a frenzy, he grabbed the sword, but it was stuck to the ground due to the creature's presence. Sinchi came to his aid and pulled the sword free, tossing it to Laios. Once Laios had it, he used a frying pan as a shield, promising a swift return. Meanwhile, the dragon remained agitated, and Sinchi was unable to stand. Just then, debris from a collapsing building fell on both of them. While on the move, Laios and Mursil unexpectedly collided. Laios promptly apologized as Mursil was propelled away, admitting he hadn't anticipated her. She inquired about their condition and the fate of their companions. Mursil informed her that the situation had devolved into chaos and their strategy had failed, leaving two of them unconscious and beneath the dragon. They deliberated on their next move, given the dragon's injury, recognizing the peril of drawing closer and being detected. Laios pondered the feasibility of targeting the dragon's vulnerability using a pot, his sword named Kinsuku, and Mursil's explosive magic. Having formulated a strategy, he proposed ascending a building to achieve a vantage point at the dragon's height. His plan involved standing on the pot and having Mursil trigger the explosion. The idea took Mursil by surprise. With the dragon's left eye blinded, an approach from the left would render them invisible. He believed he could leap onto its head before detection. Laios recalled their battle with Undine, but Mursil reminded her that she was shielded by water and a water walk spell from the blast. This time, he assured her, the protection spell and the pot would serve as a safeguard. However, the challenge of stabbing the enemy while clinging to its head remained. Laios was determined to avoid failure and had no intention of faltering. Resolute in concluding the battle to rescue his sister, he positioned himself atop the cooking pot, with Mursil reluctantly placing her faith in his plan. Propelled by the explosion magic, Laios managed to land on the red dragon's head. As the dragon struggled, he tightened his hold to prevent falling. Aware of the imminent risk of being thrown off, he deemed it the moment to enact his plan. He moved towards its mouth, thinking it far less daunting than Farland's ordeal. Securing his feet on a fong, he became trapped when the dragon snapped its mouth shut. Mursil's scream echoed at the sight. Despite the excruciating pain, he persevered, seizing the chance to target the underside of the dragon's neck. Ultimately, he thrust his sword into a gap between the scales. The dragon's bite intensified, severing Laios' leg and eliciting a scream of anguish from him. As a result, he plummeted to the ground. The dragon, too, began to falter before collapsing. Lying on the ground, Laios acknowledged the urgent need to save Farin, but resolved to first aid his comrades. Mursil arrived timely to offer support, laying him down to administer aid. Laios expressed his intention to learn healing magic from his sister upon their return, committing to take his studies more seriously. Mursil agreed it was a good idea. Let's revisit Laios' youth for a moment. His sibling queried why he lingered outside their father's chamber. Laios signaled for silence, as he was stealthily listening to the conversation within. They discussed an assailant from the grave, a topic that sparked a debate over hiring a sorcerer, a proposal met with mixed reactions. Laios, intrigued by the tales of a graveyard ghost, convinced his sibling to join him in a quest for it, despite the risks involved. Their pets noticed them, alerting their father to their escapade. Ignoring their father's commands to halt, the duo dashed off, ultimately reaching the graveyard. Laios comforted his sibling, promising safety, and requested a looser grip to ease his movement. Yet, their search was fruitless, prompting Laios to suggest a return home. To his surprise, the hand he grasped was not his sibling's but that of the ghost in question. The ghost's icy touch startled him. He pleaded for help and urged Farin to flee. Just then, their father appeared. Farland's decisive action to repel the ghost left not only Laios but also their father and onlookers in awe. She mentioned that the man buried there wore a ring that bound his soul to that place. She advised them to remove it to free his soul. Their father pondered over Farland's insight. An explanation followed that the deceased had only passed the previous day, frequently boasting of a golden ring acquired from an elf. Farland's knowledge surprised the community, fueling neighborhood gossip about them. In their room, Farland contemplated if her actions were erroneous. Laios reassured her, praising Farland's spiritual prowess and suggesting that the elder's fear of magic was the real issue. He encouraged Farland to master the use of magic for a future filled with possibilities, including roles as a priest, gravekeeper, or exorcist. Farland was buoyed by the thought. Laios envisioned her global travels and aiding those in need. When questioned if Laios would join, he affirmed his companionship. They fantasized about exploring oceans, deserts, and a land where dogs conversed. Farin, filled with joy at the prospect, later suggested perhaps it was best for him to undertake the journey alone. Laios was surprised as Farin advised not to fret over her and bid Laios farewell. The entire ordeal was merely a figment of Laios' imagination. Marcel had successfully staunched the bleeding, yet she mentioned that certain aspects of his required treatment would necessitate further delay. Her immediate priority was to locate the others and retrieve his leg. Despite his weak state, Laios struggled to sit up, his thoughts fixated on his sibling, with the firm resolve that they would make their way home together. Upon locating the duo, Marcel observed Chilchuk sprawled atop Senshi, who appeared to be in distress. She considered the need for further refinement of her protection spells. Senshi, however, reassured her, appreciating that at least they hadn't succumbed to the dragon's flames. Marcel's attempt to heal Chilchuk unexpectedly exacerbated his pain, a reaction that bewildered Senshi. Marcel clarified that the discomfort was merely a symptom of healing from a grave injury, suggesting that the pain validated the effectiveness of her spell. When it came to Senshi's turn for healing, he chose to forego the spell, preferring natural healing over the spell-induced recovery. Marcel pointed out that natural recovery could span months. Although Farin was notably proficient in healing magic, Marcel specialized in expediting the healing of wounds. They then approached the dragon, with Marcel convinced that Laios' leg was within. Senshi ventured inside and successfully retrieved Laios' leg, passing it to Marcel. Chilchuk remarked on Laios' unusual thinking, to which Marcel attributed their triumph over the dragon. She then proceeded to reattach the severed leg to Laios using her spell, which delighted him despite a nagging itch inside the limb. Marcel reassured him that the itching was a normal part of the recovery. Senshi praised Laios for his pivotal role in their victory. Laios humbly credited their collective effort, acknowledging that despite their uncertainties and lack of thorough planning, their accomplishment was what truly mattered. Chilchuk then presented Laios with a sword, expressing unresolved grievances and signaling a need for an imminent explanation. With the dragon defeated, their next task was to search for Farin. They targeted the creature's stomach, employing Senshi's knife to slice through it. They quickly realized the dragon's hide was exceptionally thick, making it difficult to penetrate. The challenge of cutting through prompted Marcel to suggest using an explosion spell, but Laios declined, equating the dragon to other beasts they had encountered. They resolved to dig through until reaching their goal. Feeling their way around the dragon's innards and upon finding a rib, they made their incision there. The darkness inside, coupled with the inability to use fire for light, led Marcel to illuminate their path. As they delved deeper, Laios commented on the stifling heat, reminiscent for Senshi of his days working in the mines. Believing they were near the liver, they anticipated the stomach's proximity. Indeed, they soon located their target, extracting it from the dragon's body to open it elsewhere. Carefully slicing it open to check for Farin, they found it empty, leading Marcel to wonder if they had targeted the wrong dragon. However, Laios dismissed this, noting the dragon's scar matched that of their previous encounter. Additionally, he mentioned the territorial nature of male dragons, deeming it unlikely for many to inhabit such a small area. To be thorough, they decided to also inspect the intestines, working together in the task. Marcel marveled at the absence of bones, suggesting rapid digestion due to the dragon's active state. Laios, struck by a thought, returned inside and retrieved a bundle containing bones and hair. He explained that creatures swallowing their prey whole typically expel indigestible material. Unlike others, red dragons use such materials as fuel for their fire breath, with black fur likely from works. Discovering human-like hair, Laios suggested they sift through the clump for possible human bones. The group meticulously examined the contents, laying them out on the ground. Chilchuk found a rod, which Marcel wanted to show Laios. However, Laios was preoccupied, feeling something inside that could be Farin. To their shock, it was a human skull, surprising everyone. Marcel struggled to believe that the skull Laios had found could belong to Farin. This prompted Senshi to question whether resurrection was feasible under such circumstances. Chilchuk referenced previous instances where similar cases had been successfully addressed. Laios proceeded to gather the bones for transport to a resurrection facility. However, Chilchuk warned that they might accidentally mix in word bones with their collection. Laios conceded they had little alternative, given his inability to distinguish between the two types of bones. Despite this, Sinchi and Chilchuk lent their aid, though Marcel was visibly shaken by the development. She abruptly halted their efforts, explaining that the spiritual links binding Farin's soul to her body were exceedingly delicate. She warned that transferring Farin under such conditions posed a risk. The more damaged a body, the greater the likelihood of the soul departing. Marcel noted that unsuccessful resurrections often resulted from the soul's departure or incomplete bodily restoration. Laios pondered their next steps, with Marcel proposing the engagement of a resurrectionist to conduct the ritual on the spot. She highlighted that the process of bodily restoration demands a vast amount of calories, mirroring those stored in the damaged tissues, indicating the need for substantial quantities of fresh meat. Chilchuk voiced concerns about potential spoilage during transportation, but Laios assured him that wouldn't be an issue, an assurance Marcel supported. She pointed out that the requisite fresh meat was readily available from the dragon itself. Chilchuk was taken aback by the idea of Farin performing the resurrection, especially using dragon meat, as resurrection magic was beyond her purported expertise. Marcel then revealed a reluctance to alarm them earlier, but admitted her specialty lay in ancient magic, typically shunned in contemporary society. She believed its use was imperative for Farin's resurrection at that juncture. Despite the ethical dilemmas it posed, they were left with no alternatives. Sinchi was taken aback by Marcel's admission of employing dark arts and objected, citing potential adverse outcomes. However, Marcel argued that magic itself is neither good nor bad. She then inquired about Laios' intended approach. He sought her assistance to revive Farin, and she consented, vowing to exert her utmost effort. Chilchuk believed they were verging on madness by opting for dragon meat in the resurrection process. Marcel typically explained that the flesh of goats or pigs is preferred for resurrection rituals. However, their current predicament in the dungeon left them devoid of alternatives. Marcel then made an incision in her palm to obtain blood. With her staff, she meticulously drew a magic circle on the ground, prepping for the resurrection spell. The initial step required them to reconstruct the body to mirror its original configuration as closely as possible. Marcel assumed the task of assembling her friend's skeleton, while Laios focused on the works. Observers were left dumbfounded by their actions. Chilchuk, puzzled, inquired about the necessity of allocating time to the works. Laios responded, aiming to prevent any confusion between the work skeletons and his sisters. Given that an average human skeleton consists of about 200 bones, Laios calculated a total of 840 bones, attributing 320 bones to a dog's anatomy. The presence of 2 skulls indicated the existence of 2 works. Their strategy involved starting with the bones that were simplest to identify, such as the pelvis, femur, and humerus. They then proceeded to sort 2 sets of bones, spanning from wrists to elbows and knees to ankles. Marcel identified 12 pairs of ribs accompanied by a clavicle, whereas the wargs lacked a clavicle and possessed 13 ribs. The rounder bones were designated as human, simplifying the comparison process. They moved on to the spine, comprised of vertebrae linked to the rib cage, noting the distinct differences between the two, thus easing the process. The small bones in the hands and feet presented a challenge due to their abundance and difficulty in differentiation. They scrutinized each bone meticulously. The design of a dog's foot, poised for toe standing, suggested that the elongated bone likely belonged to a work. After segregating the work bones, identifying the human remains became straightforward. Marcel pinpointed the largest bone, presumably the calcaneus. They carefully positioned each bone in its accurate location. With only the human bones left, they commenced from the fingers downward. Laios felt a sense of pride in his orderly arrangement. Laios had inadvertently placed the longest metacarpal bone incorrectly, which should be aligned with the index finger, not the middle. The final elements to be arranged were the carpal bones linking the hand to the arm. Seeking precision, Laios scrutinized the details, even requesting guidance from Marcel. Chilchuk told them not to treat the task as a game. At last, their work was complete. It appeared they had employed every bone discovered within the creature. From the crown of the head to the tips of the toes, the human and both work structures were meticulously crafted. Laios admired his sibling's skeletal beauty, while Chilchuk marveled at the dragon's thorough cleansing of each bone, speculating about the significant calcium intake, a notion Sinchi expanded on. Chilchuk's curiosity about the potential revival of the Wurgs was addressed by Marcel, who clarified that the souls of beasts do not remain tethered to the dungeon, preventing an overflow of souls from various entities. Marcel then took her position at the epicenter to commence the spell casting. Positioned at a distance, the trio watched as she knelt and vocalized the spell. Her staff was abruptly lowered, causing a tremor that sent shivers down Senshi and Chilchuk's spines. Blood flowed towards the skeletal remains, and gradually, flesh started to envelop the bones. Marcel's chants persisted until the body's formation was complete, leaving the onlookers in awe. The spell's execution seemingly drained Marcel of her mana, leaving her profoundly exhausted and subsequently collapsing. Laios hurried to her side, noting her chilling coldness. Chilchuk's skepticism about the spell's efficacy prompted Laios to approach the reformed body tentatively. Upon his touch, Farland's eyes fluttered open, and she drew breath once more. Laios was startled by her sudden coughing spell and quickly came to her aid, realizing she needed to clear blood from her windpipe, prompting him to assist her in expelling it. He reassured her that everything would eventually be all right, and upon receiving an affirmative response, he addressed her as Farland. She turned towards him, tears streaming down her face, and called him brother, prompting Laios to embrace her. He was overjoyed at her revival, yet she mentioned feeling cold. Laios apologized, attributing the chill to his armor, and quickly sought clothing for his sister. He found a piece of fabric to wrap around her, asking if she felt all right and if there was any pain, but she seemed to be in good condition. They then awoke Marcel, who was startled upon waking. She immediately inquired about Farland's whereabouts. Laios informed her that the spell had been successful, although Farland was still a bit dizzy. Marcel's eyes welled up with tears of relief upon seeing her friend well. Rushing over, she embraced Farland, expressing immense joy at her recovery. Farland looked around and noticed Chilchuk introduced Senshi, mentioning his assistance throughout their journey. Senshi greeted her, expressing his pleasure at meeting her, although she was not yet able to speak fluently. With everything now in order and their mission accomplished, it was time to prepare a meal. Following the day's events, Marcel and Farland decided to take a bath. A smile persistently graced Marcel's face, overjoyed by her friend's return. She offered to help Farland wash, despite Farland's insistence that she was capable of managing on her own. Marcel explained her intention to inspect Farland's skin to ensure everything had been restored accurately. She meticulously examined Farland's body, startled upon discovering a scar. Marcel clarified that Farland had obtained it in childhood, resulting from a fall that caused her chin to hit the stairs. This revelation allowed Marcel to breathe a sigh of relief, confirming all was well. Farland noted Marcel's pallid complexion, to which Marcel attributed her drained mana, yet assured that rest and nourishment would aid her recovery. Approaching Marcel, Farland offered her hands, surprising Marcel with her gesture to transfer some mana. Marcel declined, stating her mana reserves were insufficient for sharing. Farland admitted feeling a surge of vitality, as if an unknown energy was flowing through her. Marcel stood firm, comparing Farland to a patient still in recovery, and recommended against using her mana until she felt wholly revitalized. Farland then questioned if she had died, expressing curiosity about the events, having noticed everyone injured and a dead red dragon on the floor. She expressed concern for Namari and Saro's well-being, blaming herself for the peril that befell the group. Additionally, Farland speculated about a potential error in the magic circle, pondering if it necessitated Marcel's intervention. Marcel abruptly reassured her, "It's fine," acknowledging the arduous journey and obstacles they overcame. She suggested those hardships could now be recounted as amusing anecdotes because their efforts were successful. Marcel encouraged Farland not to overthink, emphasizing that no regrets were held by anyone involved. Assisting Farland to her feet, Marcel suggested for them to just erase the magic circle together later. The conversation then shifted to their imminent concern of returning to the surface and selecting attire for Farland, given Marcel's clothes required washing. Marcel humorously blamed the frogs for her outfit's entanglement with the suit. Outside, Laios experienced a peculiar feeling upon discovering a bathhouse reminiscent of those found in ancient human cities built a millennium ago. Chilchuk joined him, sharing the theory that the structure might incorporate elven and dwarvish technologies. Nonetheless, he quickly dismissed its value, citing the risk of curses. He offered Laios some wine, which Laios declined, When Laios was queried about their forthcoming actions, he indicated their intention to ascend to the surface. Given the infeasibility of using the return spell and the Orcish secret passages being off-limits, their journey would necessitate navigating the main road. However, Chilchuck's inquiry was aimed at their financial predicament, observing that rescuing his sister did not solve their monetary challenges. Laios revealed he had reserves in a bank, but the absence of his medallion and the month-long wait for a replacement posed a problem. Recalling that every dragon part is valuable, Chilchuck proposed salvaging and selling parts of the beast to raise funds. Laios expressed skepticism about the feasibility of extracting a claw or fang with just Senchi's knife, noting the item's worth would be contingent on its condition upon delivery. He reasoned that, realistically, they might only manage to harvest its blood or saliva for sale. Optimistically, they could find a valuable lump in its salivary gland. Chilchuck questioned if Laios referred to ambergris, noting its notorious odor. The conversation shifted to Marcel, with Chilchuck inquiring if Laios was aware of her proficiency in dark arts. Laios acknowledged their limited discussions on magic, though Marcel had once expressed a desire to explore dungeons for research purposes. Chilchuck found it odd, given Marcel's apparent affluence and her unusual interest in dungeon exploration, leading him to speculate she might belong to the Dark Elves. He expressed hope that their association with her would not lead to detrimental circumstances. Marcel approached just as the conversation turned to Dark Elves, questioning who they were discussing. She challenged the notion of her spell being labeled as forbidden magic if deemed harmless, positing that even healing magic could be misused to inflict torture. Marcel likened magic to a blade, its impact determined by the wielder's intentions, whether benevolent or malevolent. She defended her study of forbidden magic as an exploration of its potential benefits for society, asserting her research was driven by noble intentions. She recommended they move past the topic of the resurrection spell, a suggestion Chilchuck viewed skeptically, prompting contemplation from Laios. Farin observed Senchi, who was melodiously preparing his cookware. When Laios inquired about Senchi's location, Chilchuck speculated he was preparing dragon meat. Farin shared her encounter with a warrior poised to cook, armed with a pan and firewood. Laios expressed concern over cooking adjacent to the dragon, a worry echoed by Chilchuck and Marcel due to the inherent risks. Farin failed to grasp the danger, leading Laios to explain that their dissection of the dragon had exposed the organ responsible for storing its combustible fuel, rendering the initiation of a fire perilous. Despite their frantic warnings to Senchi, he seemed to not hear them, and as feared, the ignition led to a vast explosion. Remarkably, they and particularly Senchi emerged unscathed. Chilchuck was amazed by their survival, attributing it to a protection spell. All eyes turned to Farin, seeking confirmation of her involvement. Farin herself was uncertain, puzzled by the spell's rapid effectiveness without formal invocation. She felt an innate urge to safeguard everyone involved. Impressed, Chilchuck noted the utility of such protection would have been advantageous during their encounter with the dragon. Marcel cautioned Farin against utilizing mana so soon after her resurrection. Laios then spoke with Senchi, who was taken aback by the event. He reminded Senchi of the dragon's mechanism for fire breathing through stored fuel, highlighting the recklessness of cooking in close proximity. Given that the dragon's internal oil had ignited, Senchi realized extracting meat was futile until the flames extinguished. Opting to utilize the fire for culinary purposes, Senchi combined yeast, salt, and water, kneading the mixture. After allowing it to rest, they recommended Senchi freshen up with a bath. Subsequently, he formed the dough into circles, adorned them with toppings, dusted dragon scales with flour to serve as a makeshift baking tray. Senchi proceeded to cut off the dragon's tail, a decision Chilchuck lamented as wasteful. Following this, Senchi skillfully skinned the tail, integrating the meat into a broth that seemed to perfect the initial dish. He then proceeded to sear additional meat directly on the dragon's heated scales until it achieved a golden brown crust on both sides, subsequently immersing it in seasoning. The culinary result was a feast of roast red dragon, pizza bread laden with onions, and a savory dragon tail soup. Marcel displayed aversion to the feast, whereas Laios was visibly enticed. From afar, Farin's curiosity was piqued, yet Laios voiced concerns over the meal's safety. During their deliberation, Farin ventured to taste the pizza. To her astonishment, she found it exceptionally delightful, commenting on the rarity of such a flavorful meal in recent times. Senshi encouraged her to eat more to restore her vitality, rendering Laios and Marcel momentarily speechless. Eventually, they all indulged in Senshi's culinary creations, with Marcel finding the meat tough to chew. She observed it lacked the familiar taste of beef or pork, instead reminding her of the flavor associated with living armor. Chilchuk recalled the succulence of previously consumed kelpie and giant frog, prompting Marcel to seek Laios' assessment of the dragon meat. Laios characterized the dragon meat by its vibrant red hue, chewy consistency, full-bodied flavor, and potent aroma, asserting its unparalleled uniqueness. He questioned the comparison with other meats, emphasizing its distinctive dragon essence. Marcel struggled to explain their reliance on monster-based diets due to financial duress to Farin, a situation Laios clarified, leading Farin to inquire about their varied culinary experiences. Laios recounted their diverse menu, including giant scorpion, slime, and vegetables cultivated near a golem, noting their inexperience with merfolk but familiarity with living armor, which he clarified was essentially a mollusk colony housed within a shell. Chilchuk proposed a demonstration rather than mere explanation, revealing the creature housed within his sword. The group was initially confused until the creature emerged, inciting Marcel's frustration over being uninformed. Farin, intrigued, interacted with the creature, which retracted into the sword, subsequently leaping from her hand. Chilchuk disclosed the sword's capacity for independent movement, a concept Marcel found hard to believe. Laios explained his interim use of the sword until acquiring a new weapon, lauding its utility for detecting nearby monsters. Chilchuk concurred that Laios was left with no alternative but to utilize the sword, criticizing Laios for making decisions independently. He stressed the importance of maintaining the group's trust, noting that its loss would complicate matters. Laios acknowledged his oversight as careless and assured it would not happen again. When Chilchuk inquired about Laios' intentions for the sword, Laios explained his plan to wield it as a temporary weapon until he could acquire a replacement, humorously suggesting submersion as a solution. However, he recognized the challenge in extracting the creature without dismantling the sword, suggesting it might eventually decay, an idea that was met with disapproval. Senshi reminded Laios of the inherent dangers posed by monsters, to which Laios agreed, having deemed the creature benign and thus a provisional measure. Yet, he conceded his error in judgment. Intrigued by the creature, Farin voiced her curiosity about its flavor. Her brother queried if she truly wished to explore this, and she affirmed her eagerness to taste it. Upon inspecting their environment, they discovered numerous doors, with only 2 accessible from the exterior, reducing the likelihood of unexpected assaults. The house's comfort, highlighted by the remarkable presence of 7 bathrooms, indicated it was time for repose. Marcel, thrilled at the prospect of sleeping in an actual bed after so long, initiated preparations for the night. Concurrently, Farin engaged with a spectral child, apologizing for their intrusion and indicating their departure after a brief rest. Her brother asked about the encounter, and Farin recounted her dialogue with the house's inhabitant, which had granted them permission to stay temporarily. Pleased by this arrangement, Laios and the group proceeded with their nightly routines. As they settled in, Marcel noted the scarcity of sleeping bags, leading to a decision for her and Farin to share one, reminiscent of their days as students. Farin, pondering their fit due to her growth, was reassured by Marcel's embrace, affirming Farin's unchanged essence in her eyes, a sentiment that filled them with joy at their reunion. Before retiring, Farin sought a moment with her brother. Laios, meanwhile, was preoccupied with cleaning his armor, still plagued by an itching sensation in his leg. Farin adjusted his leg and questioned his rationale for risking his life for her. Placing his hand on her head, Laios reminded her that she had been the catalyst for their adventure, thus the reason for their current undertaking. He earnestly requested she refrain from endangering herself again, despite Farin's lack of recollection of such actions. Their embrace was a mutual promise of safety, concluded with Farin vowing to avoid reckless behavior. Wishing each other a peaceful night, they settled down for rest. Outside, the fallen dragon and Marcel's magic circle remained, but an unexpected visitor came. That night, Senshi was diligently preparing food to take with them, crafting boneless dragon ham from 2 kilograms of red dragon thigh meat. However, it seemed they wouldn't be able to consume it all. While he was occupied and everyone else slept, something awakened Farin. She rose from her bed and peered out the window, then stepped outside into an unusual scene. Spirits were calling to her, but she ignored them, much to their surprise. She appeared focused, as if searching for something, and headed straight to the dragon, where a woman awaited. The woman questioned Farin's whereabouts and why she was in that body, reminding her of her duty to seek out royal majesty and stating she had no permission to abandon her task. Farin was shocked and confused by the encounter. Laios awoke when his sword fell. Upon picking it up, he realized Farin was missing and approached a sleepy Marcel to inquire about Farin's location. He then asked Senshi, who was preoccupied and noted no one had passed by. Concerned for his sister, Laios noticed the window as a possible exit point and took his sword to investigate outside. To his astonishment, he found the dragon reduced to bones, drenched in its blood. Eventually, he spotted Farin and called out, asking what was happening. Farin, head bowed, remained silent. Laios' sword trembled in his hand. Farin responded that she needed to find King Durgal. The woman then appeared, claiming all buildings, money, citizens, livestock, blood, and flesh present belonged to the Royal Highness, King Durgal, accusing them of theft. She recognized Laios as the one who trespassed in the paintings, demanding to know his identity and purpose. Laios recalled the events, realizing she was the dungeon's master, the Mad Sorcerer. Suddenly, an explosion erupted between them, caused by Marcel, who warned the woman to back away. The woman glared at them, accusing them of usurpation. Laios supported his sister, asking if she could stand, but she angrily told him to shut up and punched him, sending him flying with the force. Chilchuk and Senshi were taken aback, unsure of what was unfolding and whether the woman was also an adventurer. The woman retrieved a tome, causing unease for Chilchuk. Senshi then hoisted Laios. As the woman conjured a spell, Marcel identified it as ancient magic. Farin, still kneeling, observed as foam formed in the dragon's blood, from which small creatures emerged. Commanded by the woman, these beings were instructed to eliminate them all. One of the creatures managed to inflict a wound on Marcel's face. She realized that neither explosive nor protective magic would suffice against them, concluding that the spell creating them needed to be overridden. Preparing for another assault from the creatures, she readied herself for combat. However, her offensive was intercepted by the woman. Marcel's attempt at dispelling the attack proved futile, as she grasped the essence of the ancient magic but found it overwhelming. Senshi witnessed the gradual disappearance of the boneless dragon ham he had prepared. Marcel then questioned the woman, inquiring if she was responsible for the dungeon's creation and expressed a wish to communicate with her. Abruptly, the ground beneath them opened, swallowing them whole before sealing shut immediately afterward. The woman glanced at Farin, encircled by spirits, reassuring them there was no cause for concern since the king's return was imminent. She promised that his return would be marked by celebration and festivity. Addressing Farin as a dragon, the woman remarked on the inconvenience of her current form, offering a transformation. Farin's body gradually succumbed to control, and she was directed to achieve her designated purpose, affirmatively responding, "Yes, I will." Plunged into darkness, the quartet was illuminated by Marcel. Chilchuk was unable to recognize their location and initiated a search for an exit. The environment began to contract, prompting an urgent search for an escape. Chilchuk inquired about Marcel's magical assistance, but she admitted to not knowing any spells capable of extricating them from their situation. They endeavored to prevent the constriction using their physical strength, even resulting in Marcel's staff breaking. Marcel acknowledged their impending demise. For her, it would be a first, but her primary concern was their discovery due to their underground location. Having discovered Farin and begun to unravel the dungeon's mystery, the potential futility of their quest weighed heavily on her. She strongly desired not to meet their end in such a manner. Suddenly, multiple hands emerged from the wall, enveloping Marcel and muffling her before pulling her away. When an opening became visible, the group opted for escape, preferring it over being crushed. Laios was the first to be assisted through, and as Senshi struggled to fit through the narrow opening, Chilchuk forcefully pushed him just as the wall sealed, ejecting them into a frigid, unknown room. Chilchuk, unfamiliar with their new surroundings, noted the piercing cold and advocated for a swift departure. Marcel, unable to move, received aid from Chilchuk in moving Laios. To their astonishment, they found themselves encircled by a multitude of spirits. Faced with their uncertain fate, Chilchuck and Sinchi contemplated their seemingly imminent demise. Like and subscribe for the next one.